Mr. Buxade. Mr. Buxade. Thank you so much, Chairman. Well, something is wrong. Something is going wrong when in 2024 we're discussing the right to ownership. Of course, I'd like to thank the petitioners for their effort, not only in preparing this petition and defending it for them to get to this point and the effort for them to actually come here. So something is wrong. If you violate the right to ownership by the state, and something is even worse, if the European Commission seems to pass the buck. Because with the European Commission, when good things are good, well, they praise themselves. But when things are not so good, well, then they blame the member states. The European Commission talks about the Charter of Fundamental Rights, well, only when they feel it's necessary. When we have two citizens whose rights to ownership have been violated, all of a sudden you say, well, why don't you go to the court in Strasbourg? Who's going to pay for the case? And the 6 years they have to wait for the Human Rights Court to get a sentence if you don't get the support from a government. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about the right to ownership, to own property. Well, what are we, about 100 people here in the room? I think we have an ideological prejudice. If I have a question, you would say that anyone has the right to a home. Because for 40 or 50 years, you have felt and you heard all this that has been said about the squatting movement, which started in Germany and has extended all over Europe. So, what do you think? What do you think if I tell you that I'm going to take your home away from you and we're going to give it to a vulnerable family? When this decree was approved in the Congress, nobody who voted in favor of this decree did not offer their homes and apartments to the vulnerable families. The Prime Minister, the Spanish President, didn't offer his home to the vulnerable families. Hundreds of migrants reach the shores of Spain, and the government puts them in luxury hotels. But those who couldn't pay the rent because they lost their job because of the virus, because of the pandemic, they said to these people, to the petitioners, they said, no, take their homes, don't pay them the rent, and that they would be subject to a very long legal process. The situation in Spain is pretty amazing, because after the intervention of the petitioners and the different political groups, nobody has any doubt that the petitioners are correct. So the whole situation is really serious. The Constitutional Court, controlled by the Socialist Party, prepared a sentence, stated that to avoid people from being evicted is not necessarily implies infringement of the right to ownership. So the different institutions governed by the socialist government are seriously endangered. So we need to call for the right to ownership above anything else. Together with life. That is what Europe believed for 500 years, and that you are just sweeping under the carpet. Of course, a petition needs to be kept open. Of course, we need to ask for reports from the different ministers. We need to ask for the impact of this type of occupation. What is the economic cost for the families? How many cases have not been ruled upon in the courts? Because our colleague from the Socialist Party says that there is compensation. So how much money have you spent and how much money have they received? I think it's really embarrassing, this whole situation. And I believe that it's incredible that the Socialists and the PP party keep blaming each other. The Socialist parties governed Spain for over 30 years, and the People's Party governed Spain for 15 years. Now, if they did not build any social housing, it's because they want to hold on to the land so that the companies buy this land at a very high price. If the owners don't have any guarantees that the people renting their house are not going to pay the rent, well, they certainly don't feel encouraged. We need to call upon the ministries to give us all the information necessary, and we'd like to ask the government to reassess its position. And European citizens don't just pay for the VAT and the very good salaries that we all earn here, but at the end of the day, the final guarantee of the rights of European citizens.
Thank you. Last, but we also have Mr. Dancy wanting to take the floor.
Grazie, Presidente.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all the colleagues who've taken the floor here. Well, we have a war, if you like, between, on the one hand, the landlords who have a right to have a dignified life. And in 2021, in this Parliament, we voted for a resolution on a proposal of the Economic and Social Committee, which tried to give a response to this issue of everyone having a right. And I think the wrong response, in my view, in order to protect people who have a house, who own a house, and because of European policies have to pay very high taxes on it, we don't have any provision to prevent squatting. In my country, Italy, this is causing a restriction of the rental market. People are very worried about this, and they don't put their house out to rent, unless we're talking about the big groups who can indulge in speculation. So we don't have property available because of the fear that they will have persons renting who are not paying the rent. And this is the cause of it all. So I ask the Petty Committee to leave this petition open, not to say this is right or that is right, but we do have to remember that people, for example, might have bought property for their retirement needs in order to be able to pay for care in later life. You could have a situation where they don't have children. So let's not make people worry so much that they don't rent their property anymore. And we would depress the market in that way. So I ask that this committee keeps this petition open. And I think we have to make a proposal to encourage a debate on this in the Parliament and push the European Commission to come forward with a proposal which will also help companies to provide more housing services. And indeed, I've heard that this will be done. But the problems are there too with workers who may not be available. So this is a petition which should remain open. Let's leave the ideological debate to the side, but just look to the future with a new vision and new instruments that only in Europe we can provide.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to